Good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Why don't you move a little bit? Or if that's comfortable, that's okay. Probably
Come
like tomorrow.
closer, yes.
Yeah.
Especially students.
That's right.
So Manish can peer over his shoulder and see that you're doing the right notes.
This way I can nudge you under the table with my foot.
Yeah.
You know that one.
Okay. So we are here for a detox retreat, right? So, like when I am teaching the students, the way I teach them is different. But because we are here for a detox retreat, I'll start with understanding of the detox and then gradually get into the concepts of Ayurveda, because I don't want to burden you with a lot of concepts to start with. So we'll go as per the topic. We'll talk first about what detox is, okay? And then we will move on to understanding what is the Ayurvedic concept of it, etc. How many of you don't know Ayurveda? Let's put it the other way around.
Not much.
Not much, okay.
Oh, not much.
Not much,
But I know
okay.
something.
Yeah, okay. So we will also, explore that from that angle, because there are a lot of people who have studied or, who are studying or who have done consults, who have attended previous retreats, etc. So when we understand the concept of detox, as in today, you must have, read about it, you must have, seen videos about detox, etc. And you will find that a lot of methods exist for detox. Like people suggest drinking particular juices, people suggest fasting, people suggest, warm water, people suggest different kinds of decoctions, infusions, and so on and so forth. So what exactly, but there is also a thought which says that we don't really need a detox. There is also a concept, there is also a school of thought, there is also a group of people who say that we really don't need detox. So, do we really need detox or not? That's the first question, that we have to answer. And the simple answer to that is, if we were living in a situation which was maybe, 1,000 years ago, 2,000 years ago, when the food that we were consuming, the lifestyle that we had, the air that we were living in was more cleaner, then probably this concept or this thought of not really requiring a detox would make sense. But today, when we are exposed to so many chemicals, so many pollutants, so many toxins which are coming into our body, into our system, through food, through your breathing, through, the products that you apply on your skin, on your scalp, all that, then probably, the necessity of detox is there. Now, do you know how many chemicals have been identified as being or have been identified as health hazards or toxic in nature? Do you know the number?
In nature,
Yeah,
as in natural toxins.
Toxins which are
sorry,
identified and labeled that, okay, these have to be avoided. Do you know the number?
Must be thousands, I don't know.
Tens of thousands. I don't know.
So close to about 110,000 to 117,000 chemicals have been identified, which are labeled as toxic to the body. So it is not thousands, it's not, tens of thousands, it's 100,000. More than 100,000. So if we really have to then start looking at, avoiding these things, it will be impossible for us to survive in this world, because everything that you're consuming is some or the other way toxic in form. And that also then brings us to this whole concept that why detox is necessary. Now here we also have to understand one more thing, which is, a lot of times, like here we talked about 110,000, 117,000 toxic substances in the world. Okay, and we tend to then start thinking, oh, then do I need to read a label every time and see whether there is a toxic substance in that, whether that is health, that everything in that product that I'm consuming is healthy, is there anything unhealthy, etc. The idea here is that you are going to get exposed to these things more and more. Today it's 117,000, tomorrow probably in another 2 years it will be 125, 140, 150,000, chemicals, substances which will be identified as, toxic. So the idea here is, one, detoxing the body, number one, and secondly, making yourself strong enough to not have the adverse effects of these toxins on the body.
Okay.
We started talking about this that, do you really need toxins? We said that, okay, a few years ago, probably you may not have required, a few 100,000 years ago, you may not have required. Why? Because the bodies were strong, the foods were healthy, the lifestyle was healthy, people were healthy. So what did that mean? That your body had the capacity to handle these toxins, to detoxify itself. Today it doesn't have, because the amount of toxins that we are being exposed to is so high that the body cannot really do the process of detoxification on its own. And that's why then we have to bring in these concepts, or we have to undergo the process of detox every now and then, or after a regular period of time. Now, when we are really talking about detox, there is one organ in the body which is responsible for this detox. Okay, and that organ is your liver. So whenever you are actually talking about detox, or whenever you are talking about, cleansing your body, what you are indirectly talking about is improving your liver functioning, improving, the liver to do the function of detoxification, purification. That's what we are talking about. Now the liver, is known, or is called in anatomy and physiology, it's called as the portal system. Liver is like a port, where what happens at a port, a vessel will come, it will remove the things that have to be removed, few things will be loaded in, and then the ship will further travel. In the same way, the blood comes to the liver, okay, it will get detoxified there, and then the purified blood will be passed on to the heart. Please understand, the heart only does the function of pumping the blood. Heart has no other function. The oxygenation part, where the blood gets oxygenated, is done by your lungs. The purification of the blood is done by the liver. So you cannot really, we try to put a lot of emphasis on heart as an organ, heart as a system. We need to have a healthy heart, but that is because it does the pumping of the blood. But equally important are your lungs and your liver. And most important of this is actually your liver. Because if the liver stops doing the functioning of purification, all the blood that is going to be pumped in your body is going to be impure. It's going to have toxins in it. And then these toxins will have the toxic effects on all the different organs, systems, tissues, etc. So when we really are talking about detoxification, we are talking about how do you improve your liver health, liver function. Now, is your liver not able to do the function? Yes, it is able to do its function. It is continuously doing the function of purification of blood, detoxifying the body. But like we said, we are getting exposed to so many toxins all the time that the liver capacity to detoxify, cleanse, is also not sufficient. Now, when we look at the various detox methods, okay, when we look at all the detoxification methods which exist in the world today, what are they aimed at? If we look at, what are they aimed at? They are aimed at one simple thing, which is eating less or eating light. Whether it's juices, waters, decoctions, fasting, whatever you consider, it's aimed at only one simple thing: eating less or eating light. Correct. So what does that mean? That one important thing for detox is basically resting your digestive system. That is what is the concept that is prevalent across the world. Whichever detox you go for, the basic concept behind that is the same. I'm not talking about the detoxes whether you apply, foot patches and then, the water becomes black. I'm not talking about those kind of detoxes. I'm talking about genuine detox methods and genuine detox systems. Now, when we look at actually, what happens in the liver is, like I said, the heart is pumping the blood. The heart will pump the blood moves in a clockwise motion. Okay, it moves in a clockwise motion and it comes back. Okay, so when the heart is pumping the blood, it is pumping the pure oxygenated blood. Okay, it's pumping the pure oxygenated blood, which is going to each and every cell in the body, which is going to each and every tissue in the body. Now, when the blood reaches those parts, it basically nourishes, oxygenates, takes whatever wastes are there, takes the carbon dioxide in it, and then it is coming back towards the heart. Now, whilst it is coming back towards the heart, this is where your liver is. So whilst coming back, it has to pass this organ to move and go back to your heart. And this is where the liver performs the detoxification process, the purification process. And that is the reason why this system of purification is called as the portal system or the hepatic portal system. And when the blood is purified and it comes back to the heart, from the heart it is pushed into your lungs first, where the oxygenation takes place, then pushed back to the heart again. I'm giving this part because from here it is pushed into the lungs, then it is pushed back into this part of the heart, and then it is pushed into your body. That is how the functioning of the body happens. You don't need to know details of it, but this is, a common understanding which is important, because when we are going to talk about detox, when we are going to talk about what is going to happen with your body, a little bit of understanding of this makes it more logical, more sensible, and it is acceptable then to you because you know what is happening in your body. Now, whenever the toxins are there, what happens in the body is these toxins basically will be detoxed and will be thrown out of the body. The throwing out mechanism happens through different methods. One is through your digestive system. Okay, so one is through the digestive system, through your feces, it will be thrown out. It will be thrown out through the kidneys, so it will be thrown out through your liver, through your urine. And some toxins, which are basically, water soluble, they will be thrown out through your skin in form of sweat. And some toxins, which are gaseous in nature, will be thrown out through your breathing. So all these organs will function together: your digestive system, your urinary system, your skin, and your respiratory system. They will function with the liver to detox you continuously. Now, liver as an organ, it is very important to understand because it has multiple functions in the body apart from purification. It is a very important organ in terms of your digestive system or digestive functioning also. The food that we eat predominantly consists of three things, carbohydrates, proteins, and fats. Correct? carbohydrates, proteins and fats. Now the proteins that we eat, they are digested in your stomach mainly. Okay. The carbohydrates, what are carbohydrates basically? What do you understand by
Simple sugar.
carbohydrates?
Simple sugar.
Simple sugar. So sugar is carbohydrate. What else is carbohydrate?
Starches.
Starches. What are the examples?
Potato.
Pasta, bread, wheat, rice,
Potato.
potatoes. So all the bakery products that we consume, the breads, biscuits, croissants, etc., they are all carbohydrates. Rice, wheat, so the bread that we eat, that's carbohydrate. Pasta, potatoes, all these are carbohydrates. And all these carbohydrates are going to get converted into basically sugar, glucose. And this glucose is going to be used by the body as the source of energy. Correct? This glucose is going to be used by the body as the source of energy. So the body is taking the glucose from, body is taking the energy from the glucose that is being derived from your carbohydrate intake. But if we tend to eat lot more carbs than we are supposed to, then the body has excess glucose in it. And this excess glucose is then stored first in the cells and then in the liver in form of glycogen first. Okay. When the glycogen deposits are full, then the body starts storing them in form of fats. So the reason I'm talking about this is because when we are looking at detox, we understand detox to be useful for cleansing the body. But if we understand detox, the Western concept or the modern concept, as well as we understand the concept in Ayurveda, then you will understand that detox has more deeper results and impacts on the body than just cleansing the blood or cleansing the body. And that's the reason I'm explaining you these concepts also, that the liver is responsible for converting the carbohydrates also into glucose as well as the fats. When the body is exposed, so coming back to this, so the excess glucose is going to be stored in the cells, in the tissues, and the excess glycogen is also going to be stored in the liver. The excess fat is going to be stored in the fat cells which are present in the body. So every person has a certain number of fat cells which are present in them. So when you are consuming extra calories, when you are consuming extra food more than what is required by the body. Now again, this is a concept which is there in the modern science also, in Ayurveda also, that if you consume extra food, then that is going to result into some adverse effects in the body. Okay, Ayurveda also says the same thing, Western science also says the same thing. So this extra food that you're going to eat, that is going to be stored in the body in form of fat. Why? The concept, the idea is very simple. Why do we eat food?
To stay alive. Because we're
What's the basic? What is the basic reason we eat food?
Hungry.
Hunger.
Hunger. But what is the purpose? Why?
Energy
What
for the
energy?
Oh. Right.
So basically, we eat food because we need energy to do what? To survive, to live, which means to do different physiologies of the body, to do different activities. All that requires energy, and that energy comes from the food. So the purpose why body stores extra carbohydrates consumed in form of glucose, glycogen and fats in the body is because the body is a highly developed machine. Whenever you're eating extra, it starts thinking, okay, I'm getting the food today. What if I don't get the food maybe tomorrow. So it's like a rainy day situation which the body, assumes, and based on that it stores this so that if suppose you don't get food, these stores can be utilized to convert glucose glycogen into energy, fat into glucose and then energy, and then use that energy for the body survival. Now unfortunately that never happens. We never end up into having a situation where we don't get food to eat, etc. And we keep on adding these glycogen deposits and fat deposits in our body. So that is then what results into what we call as various lifestyle disorders, whether it is obesity, whether it is diabetes, whether it is cholesterol. All these lifestyle diseases which are originating from one simple thing, is not eating properly. Now I am using this word in a very, very loose manner, not eating properly, because we will be elaborating on this more. So not eating properly, not eating the right amount, not eating as per what is required by your body, etc. All this then contributes to all these problems in the body. Now, yesterday there was a discussion on the table about ghee, and how ghee is bad for the body, and should we have it, etc. So please understand the concept of fats causing cholesterol. Okay, that is the idea today. The fats cause cholesterol, which is basically harmful for the body. Now this concept itself, if we evaluate this concept further, we have to understand that cholesterol is 80% formed from carbohydrates, from glucose, and 20% formed from fats. So if you have to be wary about something in terms of cholesterol, you should be wary about glucose consumption, which is your sugars and your carbohydrates, not the fats. 80% of cholesterol comes from your glucose, or basically sugar and carbohydrates. I'm using the word glucose because the source of that is carbs and direct sugars. Only 20% comes from your fats. So if you have to be careful, or if you have to be scared of, you should be really worried about excess consumption of carbohydrates and sugars, and not really fats. And please understand, we are not blaming anybody here. We are neither blaming carbohydrates, we are neither blaming fats here. Everything goes out of balance when you start consuming things excessively. Moderation of everything is always healthy. Moderate consumption of carbohydrates, fats and proteins is always healthy. If you start consuming anything in excess, that is going to start causing problems in the body. So when we look at this concept of cholesterol, we understand that there are two types of cholesterols, right? HDL and LDL. High density lipoprotein and low density lipoprotein, that is HDL and LDL. Now the HDL has been said to be the good one, the good fat, good cholesterol, and the LDL is supposedly labeled as the bad cholesterol. Now when we understand the functioning of HDL and LDL, if LDL was supposedly a bad guy, why would body make it in the first place? When the body is such a developed mechanism, why would it make it? There was no need to make LDL. The body could have said, we don't need LDL, we will only make HDL. So HDL has its own functions, which is basically it carries extra cholesterol to the liver to be processed further. Whereas LDL has its own functions, which is repair mechanism. The low density cholesterol, the low density lipoprotein also has important function in the body, which is basically repairing. So wherever the body requires repair, wherever there is a damage to the tissue, the LDL will come into play and it will help in the repair of that part. please understand that, when we go back to studying Ayurveda, when we start talking about the concepts of Ayurveda, and whatever you have understood or whatever you know, that the three doshas, the three energies, the Vata, Pitta and Kapha, okay, which is the air, fire and water kind of similar terms. If we understand them properly, the water or the Kapha is responsible for nourishment, repair, growth. The Kapha is exactly like your fats in your body. So the fats also in your body, they are not harmful. The fat also has function. What are the fat functions? Giving energy, giving lubrication, protection, support and strength. So if we are calling that cholesterol is a lipoprotein, which means it's a lipid, which means it's a fat, and LDL is the bad guy, it's not really a bad guy. It's basically the function of that is repair of the body wherever there is a damage. Now, why does the damage happen? The damage will happen because of various things that we are consuming. Particularly the chemicals that we are consuming will cause damage. Like today when we talk about, why the cholesterol accumulates and causes plaques in the blood vessels, if we have to study that and understand that, the blood vessels so the blood vessel is through which basically your cholesterol is going to flow. It flows with your blood, right? And then why does it go suddenly and start accumulating on the walls? Something goes wrong in the physiology, that is what it causes. Ayurveda has its own way of explaining it. But what does the Western science say? The Western science says that the LDL, which is the bad guy, it causes plaques and it causes the blocking of the blood vessels. The HDL doesn't. Why? Because the HDL, being high density, is in the middle, in the center of the blood vessel. The LDL is on the walls. Now these LDL is actually doing the function of repair. Wherever there is damage to the walls, the LDL will repair it. So it will keep on repairing it. So it will act like a band-aid every time the wall is damaged. And this damaged wall, because of the band-aids, the more the wall gets damaged, the more band-aids you apply, the more thickening of the wall will happen. So it is not the LDL which is a problem. We are blaming somebody just because LDL is present there or LDL is doing the band-aid functioning there. It is basically something else which is causing this. It is the damage to the walls which is supposedly one of the reasons why the damage to the blood vessel walls happens, is also these toxic substances which are being consumed by us. So when we are exploring this more and more, we start understanding that nothing in the body is going to be harmful, because the body will not make anything that is dangerous to itself. Why will it make something that's going to cause damage and cause blood vessel blocking and then heart attacks, etc.? No, it won't. So when we look at these challenges or when we look at these problems, the underlying reason for the heart attacks is not really the cholesterol. It is the damage to the walls, and the poor LDL is doing its function of repair, and you are blaming LDL for that. So the blame should be the foods, the substances which you are getting exposed to, or the causative factors which are causing damage to the walls. Now, when the Ayurvedic students who are sitting here, they will understand what I'm meaning damage to the walls. When we look at there will be a mix of topics here a bit, because I will talk about certain things which will give them a hint to think more about what they are studying. It may not be necessarily a value add to you because you haven't studied at depth. But when just Pedro and you also study, right? You're in the
No.
I mean
No.
Valeria, yeah. Sorry. So when we talk about the blood vessel walls, etc., you have to understand We have spoken about this in our lectures that, how blood vessel wall health is important. And you can clearly see that the blood vessel wall can then lead to these kind of damages or these kind of diseases further. So the Rakta Dhatu that we study and the sub Upadhatus and the sub tissues, that's a clear example of what happens with this. So going further, so when we are talking about cholesterol, when we are talking about lipid profile, when we are talking of the health issues caused by them, we don't have to really be worried about ghee or consuming fats. If we have to be worried about anything, it has to be excess consumption of sugars, refined foods, and refined carbohydrates, processed foods. That is what we have to be worried about rather than being worried about eating fats. Because fats are going to be extremely important in the body to perform the functions of lubrication, to perform the functions of giving strength, giving energy, and also doing a lot of growth and repair functions. If we cut out fat completely, your body will go dry. The lubrication will reduce. The joints will start making cracking noises. The skin will go dry, which is also not good. So the right optimum quantity of everything is necessary. So fat intake is also necessary. And the reason why, we intend to give you ghee in the night from today is because there is a reason for it, which I will explain as we go further. But at this moment, I explained this so that at least your doubts about should we consume ghee, not consume ghee, is going to increase my cholesterol, etc., that should be cleared. There are researches done which have proven that cow's ghee does not increase cholesterol levels at all. Okay, so that should, resolve that question basically, whether ghee is healthy, not healthy, etc.
Is
Yeah.
it okay if there's a dairy allergy? Does the ghee, has it had the lactose boiled out or something?
Can you repeat the question, please?
What if you have a dairy allergy? Does the ghee, is that still okay? Is it being boiled out?
It should be okay. It should be okay. Because the ghee is a completely changed form of milk. It doesn't have any lactose in it at all. It's a completely processed form. We will talk about allergies as well at some point in these 9 days, as to why allergies happen, what is the reason behind it, and what should be how should we tackle those. That is something we will certainly talk about. But one thing which is extremely important is we have to at some point stop focusing on external substances and talking about properties of substances and thinking that that's exactly what it is going to do in my body. Do you understand what I mean? I'm saying that today we talk about, this is superfood. Oh, this is unhealthy. Oh, this is, toxic. Oh, I'm allergic to this, etc. We talk about food substances. And we talk about characters, attributes, benefits, side effects, contradictory effects, etc., etc. We talk about all these things. But what is extremely important is start focusing on your body, start focusing on how your systems are, rather than focusing on the substances that you're consuming. I'm not saying don't focus at all. Don't pay attention to what you're eating. You have to pay attention. But if your systems are strong enough, if your digestive system is strong enough, if your processor is strong enough, then even if sometimes the raw material that is being introduced in the body, the food that you consume, the substances that you consume, they are not that good, still the body will not have adverse effects on it. Why? Because the digestive processes, the transformative processes are strong. And we will be talking about this in details going forward. So coming back to the detox, what basically all the different methods are talking about is, like I mentioned, eating less, fasting, right? Now, I also explained you what happens in the body when you are eating excessively. You're eating substances, you're eating foods. The foods are getting converted into excess stores. Excess foods are getting converted into glucose and fats, and they are stored in the body. In the same way, different toxins which are consumed by the body is exposed to different kinds of toxins. The liver will detoxify and throw them out. The toxins which the liver is not able to detoxify, what does it do? It basically wraps that toxin in a fat cover and leaves it in the body. So these toxins are basically wrapped in a fat cover and they are present in the body, but because they are wrapped in a fat cover, the lipid cover, it does not show any adverse effects on the body. Yes.
What kind of things does the body do that to?
Toxins which the liver cannot digest, the liver cannot process. So it will depend on your strength of the liver, how strong the liver functioning is, as to what the liver is capable of detoxifying. Rest all it will basically keep in the body in this form. Yeah.
I've heard or read that cortisone is something that the body can never ever rid itself of.
So there are
For
multiple
example,
things, like petroleum byproducts, parabens, a lot of chemicals which are added into your personal care products. All those are chemicals which the liver is not able to process. And all these chemicals then liver will basically keep it in form of covered in fat in the body.
I said this time shampoo.
Yeah, shampoo things there. So the parabens, etc.
And of course, this is because with evolution, chemicals have happened faster than we've been able to evolve.
Yeah.
So our body hasn't had a chance to learn
Build
to
a mechanism.
cope with
Exactly.
it's all happened too fast.
Yeah.
Yeah. They say even like with the Coca-Cola drinks that have no sugar in them, the body just doesn't know what to do with it. Does not recognise the chemical compound. And it goes, I don't know what to do with this. We're just going to park it somewhere because I don't know how to deal with this. Yeah. Anyway.
Yeah. So, such chemicals or such toxins which the body is exposed to, they will be in your body. They will be circulating or they will be stored in your body in this form. Now, what happens is when you undertake a detox process, like for example, you go on a fast, you go on liquid diets, you go on warm liquids, you go on soups, you go on infusions, etc. Then what is happening is the liver functioning is improving. Now, you're not getting food, first of all. So when the body is not getting food, what it will start doing? It will start taking glucose from the glycogen stores, correct? It will then start using the sugar that is stored in the cells for the energy that it is required. After a while, it will start using the fat and convert the fat into glucose and use it as the energy source. That's the natural process. So when you undergo fasting, the body is going to go into a state where it is not getting food, and hence it's going to use the reserves which are in form of glucose and fat for energy. And that's exactly what is expected, or that's exactly what is done in people in today's world when people want to lose weight, right? When people who are fat, they want to lose weight, what is suggested? Calorie deficit is suggested. What is calorie deficit? Eating lesser than what your body requires. The amount of calories required by the body, eating lesser than that. Which means what? We are creating an artificial scenario where the body is deprived of food, so that the excess energy required by the body, which the body is not getting from the food because you're eating less quantity, it starts getting those from the reserves, which are your fats and the glucose reserves. So the same thing happens when you undergo detox, when you undergo fasting, when you are taking lighter foods, when you are taking liquid foods. It is different kind of fast in a way. And then the liver will start processing the glucose and the fat, convert it into energy, which the body will use for its regular day-to-day activities. Yeah.
Does it discern which fat cells have the toxins in and which doesn't? Like, because otherwise it could be pulling all the
So I'm coming to
toxic
that.
ones.
So I'm coming to that.
Oh, you're coming to
Yeah.
that.
So the whole idea is that the reason I'm explaining is because when the fats are getting converted into energy, you're losing fat, the body is not able to identify that these are toxins which are being held by the fat, and these are just fat cells alone. The body is going to start using the fats as and where required. So the situation happens where the fats are digested, fats are used for glucose conversion, and the toxins are released in the body. Now, this is a situation which can be dangerous to the body. Okay, this is a situation which can be dangerous to the body. But because we have put the body into a fasting mode, because we are giving certain substances which are helping the liver functioning, which are improving the liver functioning, the liver then converts that toxin into some other form, and then it is further converted into a water soluble form, and then it is removed out of the body. That is only possible if basically you undertake fasting and you undertake this mechanism. So this, I am not getting into the details of it too much because it's too much of biochemistry there. But what happens is when you undertake a fasting mechanism, the liver will then become stronger, plus you are supplying the liver with, like, you, for example, you took in the morning what? Aloe vera? So aloe vera is an excellent liver cleansing substance. It tones up the liver. It improves the liver functioning. A lot of bitter substances, the bitter substances which are present in the world today, like say turmeric, neem, all these are excellent liver stimulants. So these kind of substances improve your liver functioning. Simultaneously you are fasting. So you are not pressurizing the liver to detox more. That further strengthens the liver functioning, and then even though the dangerous toxins are released in the blood, the liver will convert it into a form which will further be processed because of the action of proteins etc. on it, and it will be converted into a water soluble form, and then it will be removed. And that is also one of the reasons, supposedly, why people feel really bad and sick when they are undergoing the detox method. The reason for that is these toxins are released into the blood, which can cause adverse effects on the body. And that is why it is important that when you undertake detox, the food has to be correct, the supplementation has to be correct, the nutrition, the medicines that are being given for detox have to be correct, the liver strengthening has to happen simultaneously, and then only you will acquire, or then only you will be able to achieve a proper detox happening. So now when you have understood what basically happens in a detox, if we go back and try and understand what Ayurveda has to say about it. Now, Ayurveda basically, for people who have limited knowledge, it's a science which is more than 5,000 years old. Okay, it's a traditional medicinal science from India. But if we look at the science, it's basically very simple to understand, very common sense based science, I would say. And the most important aspect is it focuses on preventative health, maintenance of health rather than curing the diseases. It's more emphasizes on how you can prevent being sick, how you can maintain being healthy. And then obviously it also says that because we are human beings, we are tend to make mistakes, not understand, listen what is healthy, not healthy, beneficial, non-beneficial, and we will do mistakes. We'll fall sick. Okay, if you've fallen sick, then you use these herbs, these medicines, etc. to get healthy. That's the gist of what Ayurveda is in like 5 sentences. So, but when we look at Ayurveda and when we look at the concept of toxicity, when we understand the concept of detox, it's slightly different, okay, but still very close to what the Western science talks about today. So the Western science, we spoke as to, toxins coming from food, toxins coming from pollutants, etc., etc. Now here, what Ayurveda says is that 99% of your diseases, they arise because of your digestive system problems. More than 99% of your diseases will happen because of your digestive system problems. Now again, today, everybody in the world is talking about gut health. Yeah, everybody. Gut health. Yeah, everybody is talking about gut health. So, were they not aware? Everybody was aware of it, but the focus was different. So today, okay, this is easy. Let's talk about it. Ayurveda has said this 5,000 years ago that, if your digestive system is good, you're healthy. If your stomach is functioning, your digestive system is functioning properly, then everything is going properly in your body. Now, what does that mean? So, what happens in your digestive system? Basically, the food that you consume is digested, right? It's digested, it's transformed. Transformed into what? Transformed into a form which the body can assimilate, the body can accept. The simple explanation of what digestion is converting the food into a form which is acceptable to the body. Correct? So we cook, like Sonia has been cooking. What is she doing? She is transforming the food which is easy for us to consume. Correct? The rice grains, after being cooked, they become easier for us to consume. The dal that she makes, the vegetables, the raw vegetables she's cooking, so that she is doing the process of transformation. She is doing a process of external digestion in the kitchen, where she is converting the food into a form which is easy to consume. Once it's consumed, then it undergoes the process of digestion further, transformation further, where it becomes easier to be assimilated in the body. That's the simple explanation of what happens in the body. So when the food is converted, into a form which is assimilable, that's when the body will absorb it. That's when the body will start using it for its nourishment. Now, the process of digestion is important for this. The process of digestion is very important for this. Obviously, if the process of digestion is not happening properly, then the food is not going to get converted, the food is not going to get digested. Just like, if she puts the rice on a stove, keeps the flame very low or keeps the flame very high, the process of cooking, the process of transformation will be affected. In the same way, if your digestive processes are not functioning properly, if your digestive enzymes are not effectively being secreted, if they are not strong enough, if they are not of the right quality, the right quantity, then the digestive processes will get hampered. So either, if they are very strong, the food will get burnt, the food will get charred. If they are not strong enough, the food will not get digested enough, or it will take long time for the digestion to happen. Either of these will happen. But the important part here is that the transformation processes will not happen effectively. Right? The same concept has been explained in Ayurveda. Ayurveda talks about a concept which is called as Agni or fire. Agni literally means fire. So this Agni is basically present in your digestive system. It is responsible for the digestion to happen. Okay. Now when we go back to understanding of the three energies, the Vata, Pitta and Kapha, okay, if we talk about these three energies, Vata, the air energy, is basically responsible for all the movements in the body. So these three energies are responsible for all the physiologies in the body. First of all, the air, fire and water, the Vata, Pitta and Kapha. I'll write down. These are just the closest terms that I'm using. They are not exactly like air, fire, water. Okay, I'm just using it at this level for your understanding. We will go into details and I'll explain later. But the air energy or the Vata is responsible for all the movements in the body. The Pitta, the fire, is responsible for transformation, conversions that happen in your body. All the different types of transformations that happen in your body will be done by the Pitta. The Kapha is basically the energy which is responsible for lubrication, growth, support, strength. So when we look at the digestive processes, and we said that these are the three energies which are responsible for these functions, obviously the fire energy or the Pitta is responsible for your digestive functioning. Okay, the Pitta is responsible for your digestive functioning. Now this Pitta is similar to your fire or the digestive fire. This Pitta is responsible for also digesting the food, converting the food into a form which is assimilable, which is acceptable to the body. Clear? Now, when you consume the food will undergo the process of digestion, will get converted into a form which is assimilable. Now, if we study the digestive process happens in a very logical manner, where the food is consumed, it is chewed, it is made into smaller particles, then it is passed on to your stomach. From the stomach, it is passed on to your small intestine and then to the large intestine. So this flow, there is a reason for this to happen. So when the food is consumed and it is chewed, it is broken down into smaller particles, right? When it is broken down into smaller particles, then that's where the saliva gets mixed with the food. Correct? The saliva gets mixed with the food. Now, it is always said that pay attention to the food. Pay attention to the taste of the food. Focus on the food whilst you are eating food. Why it is important to do that? Because when you are focusing on the food, the aroma of the food, the smell of the food, the taste of the food, the sight of the food, all that is going to stimulate your salivary secretions. When you focus on the food, the salivary secretions are going to get stimulated because of this. Once the salivary secretions are stimulated, when you chew the food, the saliva is going to get mixed with the food. Unless and until the saliva doesn't mix with the food, you will not be able to understand the taste of the food. It is extremely important that the saliva mixes with the food. People who undergo chemotherapy, radiotherapy, who lose the sense or they lose the salivary secretions, the salivary secretions stop, they cannot understand tastes. So even though the taste buds are present on your tongue, the food is present there, still perception of the taste doesn't happen. Why? Because the food has to mix with saliva, and that saliva mixed with the food has to go into your taste buds where the perception of the taste will happen. Any questions? So when we understand this, that the perception of the taste, though the food is there, the taste buds are present on your tongue, still it will not happen until the food mixes with the saliva. And adequate amount of salivary secretions are required for mixing with it, which will only happen if you focus on the food, if you pay attention to the food. And that is why it is said that you need to focus on the food. You should not be, watching telly or reading something or talking to friends whilst eating food, because the focus will not be on the food in that case. And the proper salivary secretions will not happen, which will then result into improper perception of the taste. Now, what will happen because of improper perception of the taste, etc., we will talk, as we get into the details of it. But as a basic physiology, the taste perception will not happen. The taste perception will then eventually lead to your other gastric juices to be secreted. The other enzymes which are acting on your digestive system, they will be secreted only if the taste perception is proper and the food is being understood as to, whether it's spicy, whether it's hot, sweet, salty, sour, etc. Now, once the gastric juices, the digestive juices are secreted, the digestive processes will start. But the first thing is mixing with the saliva. That's where the digestive process starts. Then the food will be made into boluses, small boluses. It will be passed on into the stomach. In the stomach, what happens? The food will be further broken down into smaller pieces. We have an understanding, or we have a misunderstanding, I would say, that stomach is the organ where majority of our digestive function happens. Okay, that is not the case. Stomach is an organ where mechanical breakdown of the food will happen. Certain digestion will happen there, like protein digestion will start there. Okay, and mainly, again, the mucus, which is like a unctuous, slimy fluid there, that will get mixed with the food. Food is broken down into smaller particles. So stomach is a very muscular organ. Stomach is highly muscular. So stomach has muscles which go horizontal, which go vertical, which go diagonal as well. So these muscles, they start contracting simultaneously when the food is in the stomach. Breaking down the food into smaller particles, mixing with the mucus, the food will then be formed into small spherical balls and will be passed on to the next part, which is the first part of the small intestine, the duodenum. This is where,
Oh, I'm sorry, so sorry
No
to interrupt.
problems.
There's been a lot of talk, or probably maybe about 10 years ago, there was a book also published that was about gut health. And, there's this theory about the stomach being the second brain. Does that sort of link into... and then I've read somewhere recently that there are more... what's one of those
Neurons.
happy hormones? No, happy like dopamine or something receptors in the stomach than there are in the brain. I don't know. So anyway, there's this idea that to view the stomach as a second brain.
I'll read
Come to
more
that.
and I'll
Yeah,
tell
okay,
you that.
thank you.
Yeah. So when the food is broken down into the stomach, it's mixed with the mucus, and it is formed into small spherical balls. Okay, and then passed on to the small intestine for the next part, which is the majority of digestion happens here in the small intestine, the first part of small intestine. Now, why it is made into spherical balls? Because to improve the surface area for action.
Ah, yes.
Okay, sphere has the highest surface area, and that is why more than the square or whatever other shapes, sphere has the largest surface area. So the acids and the juices to act on it, the enzymes to act on it, the food will be broken down into small spheres, and the mixing of mucus will make it into boluses, small spherical balls, and then passed on to small intestine, where the digestion will happen. Now, once the digestion happens here, this food that you have consumed will be converted into a form which is a nutrient part, which is nourishing part, and waste product. The food that you have consumed, which will be converted into two parts: the nutrient part, which is nourishing part, the nutrient fluid, and the waste product, which will be basically your feces, your urine, everything mixed together. And all this is mixed together in the small intestine. Okay, so it is, though separated, it is still mixed together. And this will be then passed on to the next part of the small intestine. Now, the small intestine is an organ which is again a very, very highly developed organ. It has got finger-like projections inside it, like called as microvilli. So if you look at the intestine, small intestine, it has finger-like projections like this all over it. Again, the reason for that, increasing the surface area of the small intestine, and when the nutrient fluid and the waste product come here, these finger-like projections, which are called as microvilli, they will absorb the nutrient fluid into it. The microvilli will absorb the nutrient fluid into it, and the waste products will be propelled forwards into the next part, which is your large intestine. Now, obviously, if the digestion is not strong enough, if your digestive enzymes are not strong enough, the Agni, according to Ayurveda, is not strong enough, then what will happen? The food will not get digested completely. Correct? The food will not get digested completely. The nutrient fluid that is supposed to be created will be like a half digested substance. And that half digested substance will then be absorbed into the microvilli, into the circulation, and then that will start circulating throughout the body, nourishing the body. In a normal situation, in a healthy situation, what happens? The nutrient fluid, which has fully digested nutrient fluid, will be absorbed into the circulation. It will move into the circulation, nourish the cells, give the nourishment to each and every cell in the body. But in this situation where your digestive capacity is impaired, the digestion will not be complete, the food will not be digested completely, and then the nutrient fluid will be like a half digested substance. And this half digested substance will be absorbed into the body and will start circulating throughout the body. Now, once it is absorbed into the body and starts circulating in the body, its function is to reach each and every cell and nourish. Now, the substance that is supposed to nourish itself is half digested. It doesn't have nutrient ability. So what will happen? This substance will go and start what we call is nourishing the cells with half digested food substance, which is like a toxic substance in nature, resulting into various signs and symptoms of toxicity in the body. So when we looked at the Western concept, it also clearly says that the liver is responsible for detoxification, the liver functioning is important. Here also, the liver is important because Ayurveda also believes that stronger the liver, better your digestive functioning. So both the concepts are more or less similar or closer to each other. The idea of toxicity, again, because Ayurveda believes in one simple thing, that understand the system properly. If the system is proper, then everything will get digested. Even toxic substances will get digested if your digestive fire is strong enough. So if the fire is not strong enough, the food will not get digested properly. It will get converted into half digested form. That will go and spread and circulate throughout the body, nourishing each and every cell, resulting into various toxic effects on the body. And that is what causes majority of the diseases. This is what causes majority of the diseases, that your cells, your tissues, they are being nourished by improperly digested food, half digested food. Nourishment of the cells is impaired, nourishment of the tissues is impaired, and that is what is causing this toxic effects, this adverse effects, resulting then eventually into various kinds of health problems, health diseases. Is that clear? Okay. So we'll wait here for 10 minutes and we'll come back and then continue. I want to start a new topic after that.
Oh, okay. Thank you.
Yeah? So
Sun is missing.
Oh, yes. Sun is not bad.
So when we talk about the toxicity, when we talk about this digestion not happening properly, and we said that is basically because your digestive system is not functioning properly. So what are the reasons for that to happen? We will talk about that first, and then we will go on to talk about other things. Now it is said that obviously the main reasons for your digestive system to get impacted is your digestive fire becoming weak. So if we have to give an analogy, if suppose your fire has to become weak, then there are couple of ways you can achieve that. I mean, that's not something that you want to achieve, but if you think about it in that manner, then how will your digestive fire become weak? So basically putting excess pressure, excess load on it, that is one thing, which means if you are eating large quantities of food than what you are supposed to eat. Correct? So that's one reason. Now, large quantities of food is the actual volume. Another way is putting extra pressure, eating foods which are heavier to digest. So the quantity may not be large, but the foods are heavy to digest. So what are the foods heavier to digest? A lot of animal protein, cheese, fermented foods.
Oily food?
Sorry?
Oily.
Yeah, so lots of fats, so lots of fats, animal protein, meat, cheeses, fermented foods, these are heavier to digest. So substances which are heavy to digest, if they are consumed excessively, that will also cause your digestive functioning to be impaired. Another thing is, which people do constantly, regularly, is drinking excess water. Now, what is excess water? Excess water is just like we don't constantly have, a container full of some snacks with us, right? We don't keep on eating stuff. In the same way, Sorry? Sorry?
I said, speak for yourself.
Okay. So, same way, you cannot be drinking water all the time. The concept of hunger, the concept of thirst is there, which explains you when you have to eat, when you have to drink. But that awareness of being hungry, awareness of being thirsty is not present anymore. People don't remember when they felt hungry last time, when they felt thirsty last time, because they are either constantly eating or eating, at regular intervals, because the new concept is eat small meals at regular intervals. Same way, you keep a bottle of water and keep on sipping every, at regular intervals. Now that is what is resulting into a lot of issues with your digestive system and your digestive fire.
If you had a campfire and you were constantly putting water on it, it would go out.
Exactly. So it's the same way. So you keep on constantly putting water, or you constantly keep on putting, firewood. If the fire is there, and even though firewood is used for burning, if you put consistently or constantly keep on putting it, then it will be an overload and it will extinguish the fire. So the same way, though the food is supposed to burn in the digestive system, if you take excessive foods or keep on eating it constantly, repeatedly, then that is going to extinguish your fire, that is going to extinguish your digestive fire, and your digestive enzymes will not be sufficient enough. Now, so eating excessively, eating large volumes, eating large quantities, eating repeatedly, drinking excess water, liquids, drinking repeatedly, these are all the reasons which are going to cause disturbances with your digestion, disturbances with your Agni, disturbances with your fire. But one of the important reasons, which we tend to ignore, not pay attention to, is actually not eating on time. Okay, now what is not eating on time? So today,
When you're hungry.
when you're hungry. So when you're hungry, not eating at that time. But when you go and ask people, do you eat your meals? Yes, I do eat 3 meals. So then you ask the question, do you eat your meals when you're hungry? The answer will be, no, I eat at, regular times. I eat at, 3 meals whenever I have time. So most of the people are eating based on availability of time rather than when they feel hungry. A lot of people not even understand the concept of hunger or appetite. Okay. If suppose you have something to do at, say your dinner time is 8 o'clock, you're going to be busy at 8 o'clock, you will end up eating at 6 o'clock. Why? I may not get time to eat at 8, so I eat at 6 o'clock. Now this may sound, what happens with that? But it is extremely damaging to your digestive system. Doing this, which is, eating before the time or eating after the time, is extremely dangerous for your digestive system. Now let's understand this from the Western physiology, and then let's understand this from an Ayurvedic concept so that you understand why it is important. Now you know that the digestive enzymes are required for the digestive processes, correct? Digestive enzymes are required for your digestive processes. When you feel hungry, that is the time your digestive enzymes are being secreted. Correct? That is why you feel hungry. The earlier food has got digested, the body needs energy, and that is when the digestive enzymes are going to be secreted. So, what did I say? The earlier food that you had consumed has been digested. The body requires new source of energy, and that is when the digestive enzymes will be secreted, which will give you the feeling of hunger or feeling of appetite. So even the Western science doesn't say that the enzymes are there. You open the tap and the enzymes will flow and you will be able to digest the food. No. The Western science also doesn't say this. It also says that when the earlier food has been digested, when the body requires energy, that's when the enzymes will be secreted, and that's when you will be able to digest the food. These enzyme secretions will be further stimulated by the smell, sight, and taste of the food. But it is not that you are not feeling appetite just because you ate the food, enzymes are going to get secreted. No, it doesn't happen in that manner.
Is the Agni and the enzymes the same thing?
Yeah, I'm coming to that. Yeah. So in the Western concept, what are those? Those are the enzymes which are helping the digestion. In Ayurveda, what is it called? It's called the Agni, the fire. Correct. Now, these enzymes, they are secreted means what? There is some stimulation from the brain. There is some stimulation which is coming in, which is causing the secretions to happen. So, some stimulation is there for that to happen. Correct? Some nervous system stimulation, maybe some, hormonal stimulation is there, which is causing this to happen. Now, if the enzymes are also being secreted at certain timings of the day, then you need to eat when the enzymes are being secreted. If you don't eat when the enzymes are secreted, then what is going to happen? The food is going to remain in the digestive system. It is going to stay there, not get digested. Staying there is going to cause fermentation of the food, which will result into improper digestion. What does Ayurveda say? Ayurveda says that the Pitta is responsible for digestion. The fire is the Pitta, which is the Pitta dosha, that is responsible, or which is called as fire, that is responsible for digestion. Now this is present in your digestive system, but that also needs to be stimulated to function like the fire, to function like the Agni, and to be able to digest the food. Just because there is Pitta in the digestive system doesn't mean that your system is 24 hours ready to digest the food. That stimulation of the Pitta to acquire the property to digest the food will only happen couple of times a day. And that is what is appetite, that is what is hunger. So the same Pitta, the same fire which is present in the system, though it is having the ability to digest, it is not digesting all the time. It will only acquire that ability certain timings of the day. That's when it will digest the food. Now that appetite, that stimulation of your digestive system, that feeling of hunger, that will only remain for a particular time. Which might be, ranging from maybe say 45 minutes to an hour and 15 minutes or so. Now, if you don't eat in that window, when the appetite is strong, when the enzymes are ready, when the Agni is present, then what is happening? Eating out of that window will be called as eating at wrong times or eating at incorrect times. And then that food, if it is eaten out of this window, when the system is ready, will then cause lot of problems in the body. Because the food is not going to get digested. Body is not like a time release mechanism. It doesn't have compartments that the food is stored in the stomach, eaten at 6 o'clock. When the enzymes are secreted, it's released for digestion. No. When it goes, the process has to start. So, most of the problems that happen related to the digestive system, which is like say GERD, reflux, hyperacidity, indigestion, all that, one major cause for that is not eating on proper time.
That's me. Guilty.
I think that there's more opportunity for people to do that now with the new way that we're working from home
Yes,
rather than being set times.
correct. So there is more opportunity to do that, but for that more awareness has to be created towards your body. An ability to listen to your body has to be, created, which people have lost over a period of time. People are not listening to their bodies. People either will have constantly eat something, drink something, and then that is going to disturb the Agni. That is not going to give time for the Agni to be stimulated, the enzymes to be secreted. Because what is said, the Western science says, when the earlier food has been digested. So whether it is food or liquid, except for alcohol or poisons which go directly into the circulation bypassing the digestive system, everything else has to go through the digestive system. Correct? So except alcohol and poisons, these are the only two substances which will bypass the digestion and directly go into the circulation. They don't need to be digested. And that is why they have fast effect on the body. Everything else has to pass through the digestion. So if it has to pass through the digestion, and then suppose I drink a cup of or a mug of tea now or a coffee now, how do I expect that I'll feel hungry at 12:30 after 1 hour? Not possible. Because my body is already, has taken 300 ml or 400 ml of liquid, which is there in my digestive system, that has to be processed first. So the constant consumption of fluids, constant consumption of food also is not giving that time for the system to reach a stage where the earlier food was digested. You're constantly, stuffing things. So I'll give you an analogy. Say for example, if you are working in a place and you have an ability to do say 10 tasks a day, okay, and you're working and you're given 12 tasks, okay, one day you will finish all the 12 tasks by pushing yourself hard. The next day also you are given 12 tasks. You will push yourself to do it again, okay. But a time will come when you will only be able to do 11 tasks or 10 tasks because you've been doing this for last 1 month, 1 week, 10 days, whatever was your capacity. And then that will start accumulating. That backlog of work, of tasks will start accumulating. The same way the digestive system will try to accommodate all the problematic things that you are, pushing it into. Like eating excessively, eating wrong foods, eating at wrong times. It will try and adjust as much as possible. But a time will come where it will not be able to digest the food, and that's when the problems will start. So things don't happen overnight. Like we said, the body is a fantastic machine. It's a mechanism which is highly evolved. It will try and adjust as much as possible. But then we push it beyond a certain limit by doing wrong things, by doing, things which are non-beneficial to our body beyond a certain extent. And then it cannot cope up with that. And that's when it will stop, it will break down, the digestive system will break down, and it will then result into the problems that we will talk about. But coming back to this, one of the major reasons which is not paid attention to, a lot of people do pay attention to not eating excessively, not overeating, etc. I would say a lot of people at least understand that I have overeaten because that will immediately cause heaviness, etc., etc. But not eating on time is something which is highly ignored, neglected, which people don't even understand the importance of. And that is one of the most important causes for the disturbance with your digestive system, more than actually the other things.
I hear people say, I'm always hungry. What about them? I'm not always hungry, but people say, I'm always hungry.
So,
and I just think
That'd
they
be
must
my
have,
thing.
Is it habit?
yeah.
Habit?
I don't know, I think they have a high acne, but
So basically, even when we say high Agni, like for example, when we will talk about the constitutions and when we talk about understanding of body types, there is something called as a Pitta constitution which has very high Agni. Okay, but high Agni doesn't mean that you are different than the physiology which has been created in the body. Even though you are high Agni, you are still going to only have the appetite only twice or 3 times a day. Ayurveda says 2 times. The cycle of creating or cycle of hunger is only twice a day according to Ayurveda.
Oh.
Even if you're feeling hungry.
Even if you are feeling hungry. So then the question
like a
comes,
false-
whether it is pseudo appetite, whether it is emotional eating, all these things will come into play, whether that's what is happening.
Or addictions like to sugar, for example. Excuse me. What are the two times in Ayurveda that are best to eat?
I will explain.
Being there. Okay.
Yeah. So basically, when we say people feel, there are people who say I'm constantly hungry. I will explain that separately as to why this happens. But as a pathology, as a problem, why that can happen. And particularly you see this happening with people who are obese. People who become obese and people who are obese, in spite of having excess fats in their body, they are still constantly hungry. They can eat anytime. They can eat large volumes of food compared to a normal person.
But they can't fill up their stomach because it's stretched. I don't know.
It's not stretched basically. It's just the pathology in the body is such that, and when I say pathology, disturbance in the physiology is such that basically they constantly feel hungry. And I'll talk about it when we talk about obesity or lifestyle diseases. But coming back to this,
She's constantly hungry.
That's me.
so the understanding of emotional eating, understanding of pseudo appetite also has to be there. A lot
I
of
find people are hungry when they don't eat enough fats.
Okay.
no people will be hungry if they are not eating fats, or even if they are not eating a lot of carbs to start with, enough carbs. But like specifically said that there will be people who feel I'm always ready to eat. Okay, but it is not that they are always ready to eat. It is the sight of the food, it is the thought of the food, it is the the smell of the food, that is what is going to make them hungry, which is mostly related to emotional eating or pseudo appetite. It is not to do with the actual appetite, it is to do with the pseudo appetite or emotional eating most of the times. Because
I find this comment very interesting when you say the window of opportunity for 45 minutes to 1 hour 15. Because I'm with people who are constantly hungry all the time.
yeah.
They get angry with me because I don't have that hunger that they have. But then 2 hours later, they're still telling me they're hungry. That should have gone. And now I'm going to use this to them as well. Are you listening, Sonia?
Oh no, I totally agree with Dr. Manish.
Just as well.
No, because it happened to me the other day. And I've experienced it. I thought, oh, I'm really hungry, this is my window. And then by the time I got to the food, that had gone.
So a lot of times it's also said that people who feel that they are constantly hungry, they also have to do this exercise that they should wait for 10 minutes, okay, maybe have a sip of water and see if they feel hungry after 10-15 minutes. A lot of times it is just here. If they divert their attention to something else, the hunger is not there.
Now we're bringing in willpower. Which actually is the sacral chakra, isn't it? Sacral chakra, anyway.
Don't mix up the subtle body with the physical body.
I'm getting bored of work.
So a lot of times, people, you divert your attention, and if it's a real hunger, you will not be able to divert your attention. You will still be back to, food. Where's my food? Where's my food? But if it is a pseudo appetite, or if it is, you will then not feel hungry. And particularly the question, when does this happen? Now, when do you get hungry will depend on your body type, depend on how your system is functioning, how effectively your digestion is happening. When I feel hungry may be different than when you feel hungry, when somebody else feels hungry. So understanding of hunger and appetite and understanding the feeling of that is very important.
Are you also going to ruin that? Say you just get up in the morning and you have your cup of tea. Is that already now going to change when you're going to feel hungry? Or
Yes,
Absolutely.
Yeah.
yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Suppress your appetite.
So like I said, if suppose we sit there today, when you said that the opportunity of eating on time is more, but the amount of tea and coffee people are having because they are sitting at home and having that constantly, is that destroying the appetite?
Yeah.
Probably yes. What happens in offices? These offices, they have these, coffee machines put up there. People go and, get a coffee every hour and a half. And is that destroying the appetite? Yes, probably. Keeping a bottle of water constantly with you and sipping water through it, is that destroying the appetite? 100% it is. So we are probably the only animals on this planet who think we are so intelligent that we have to break the rules of the universe. Whereas everybody else eats when they are hungry, they drink when we are thirsty, but we are constantly eating and constantly drinking. Why? Because the science says that when you feel thirsty, that's the stage of dehydration. No, it was never the case. Dehydration doesn't happen when you feel thirsty. Dehydration is when you don't drink even when you are thirsty, or when you don't get to drink for a long duration of time, when the fluids in the body reduce. So the industry, the business, the commerce has changed the narrative. And they have made us believe the narrative that this is what is the narrative now. Is the internet probably, right? Yeah. So drinking water is one of the major causes of disturbances with Agni. How much water to drink? People ask. Everybody has different opinions. Somebody said 3 liters, somebody says 5 liters, somebody says 2 liters.
The
So
general seems to be 8 glasses a day.
So 8 glasses a day would still be, even if we are considering 300 meals, we are talking of 2.5 liters to 3 liters of water still, right? So, but again, we are not considering constitutions, we are not considering body types, we are not considering different people, different functioning of the body, different physiologies. The amount of sweating one person has, the other person sweats less. The fire that other person has, or the heat in the body that one person has, the other person has. So all these considerations are there which are not given. And obviously they have also studied, say, 500 people and then put up this theory that 3 liters of fluids are required.
Yeah.
They have never said water.
Oh, right.
They have said fluids.
Fluids. Yes.
So fluids. So fluids can be various things, in your
Yes.
food, in your coffees, in your juices, etc., etc. And that also is a observation over a group of people. You may require less, you may require more. But drinking when you are thirsty is something which has been missed out here.
What about if you're just drinking because your mouth feels dry?
So feeling the mouth feeling dry, there can be reasons for that. Correct? So like for example, coming back to this, when there is toxicity in the body, what happened?
Oh, there's a hang glider.
There's
Sorry. Coming
Yeah.
over the hills. I'm sorry, Manish. Sorry.
There's a hang gliding club close by.
Excuse me. Thanks.
Yeah, they may land here maybe.
No, we told them they can't. They did ask permission.
So when the mouth feels when mouth feels dry, that can also be one of the problems that you are facing. So we always have to, like, drinking water is a band-aid. Okay, we have to go to the root cause why a person is feeling the dryness of the mouth. So one of the reasons, like for example, when we look at the toxicity, when people have toxicity in the body, they may feel dryness. If the excess heat is there, the people may feel dryness of mouth. So when you feel dry, obviously you will drink, you will sip onto the water. But the root cause has to be dealt with. See, please understand, there are two areas we are dealing with. One is your healthy situation and one is your unhealthy situation. When you are in an unhealthy situation, the physiologies are not existent, right? The physiologies have changed. Your physiology has become abnormal, and that's why you are in an unhealthy stage. And everything in an unhealthy stage will be dealt with differently. So understanding whether feeling dryness is a normal thing or it's an abnormal thing. If it's an abnormal thing, then sipping water is the solution at that time. But dealing with the root cause will be something that we will, go to understand why the person is feeling the dryness and try and deal with it, remove it, so that the person comes back to his physiology, her physiology, and doesn't feel the dryness of the mouth.
Yeah. And also just the sipping of the water rather than drinking a whole,
Whole glass of it.
yeah, whole glass
Yeah.
or something.
So, as I said, focus on this aspect more than anything else. And this is a neglected aspect of the digestive disturbance, which is not eating on time. You will find every person, eating, feels hungry at 12, eats at 1, 2 o'clock, feels hungry at 8 o'clock, eats at 6 o'clock, because of the lifestyle they are living in. A lot of people, just because their lunch breaks are at certain time, they'll eat during those lunch breaks. So people are eating as per the clock, eating as per their lifestyle, eating as per their work habits, etc., which is also causing a lot of problems with them in terms of the digestive system disturbances. Now, what happens is when the Agni or the digestive system is disturbed, the food is not getting digested properly. When the food is not getting digested properly, then the food is getting converted into a form which is like a half digested form. And this half digested form is called as ama.
Oh, yes.
The literal meaning of the word ama is half digested. Now this half digested nutrient fluid, this ama, this doesn't have the nutritional capacity to nourish the body. It doesn't have the nutritional capacity. It cannot nourish the cells. Secondly, it is heavy. It is foul smelling. It has a bad smell. It is sticky in nature. So when we understand that the ama, that is the half digested food that has been formed, it is heavy, it is sticky, it is foul smelling, and it doesn't have the nutritional capacity. And then if we understand that this is the nutritional fluid, this is the ama which is going to go into the circulation, circulate throughout the body, reach each and every cell in the body. Obviously, you have to understand that each and every cell is going to get this ama in it, which will result into each cell becoming heavy, not being nourished properly. So when the body is getting, I'm using the word nourished because that is what is nourishing the body. When the body is getting nourished by this ama, when the body is getting supplied by this ama, then the person will start experiencing the signs and symptoms like heaviness in the body, feeling lethargic,
Right.
feeling tired,
Yeah.
having bad body odor, halitosis, that is bad breath. When the nourishment is not there, obviously what will happen? The body will lose its strength. The sense organs will not be able to function properly because the nourishment of the sense organs is not happening properly. The brain function will get affected. The the brain will not be able to function. So focus, attention, grasping, all that will be affected. Why? Because nourishment is not happening.
Will it affect every person, the brain differently in every person? Like, will the effects on the brain be different with every person? Because some people seem so unhealthy, yet their brain seems to be really sharp.
So, but unhealthy doesn't mean that there is going to be armor always in the body, no? Because condition of ill health or sickness can be with armor or without armor.
Oh.
Both ways. So here we are dealing with a situation where there is presence of armor. When there is armor, these signs, symptoms will be seen, where the brain fogging will be there, brain fatigue will be there.
Okay.
Obviously, it will also depend on the severity of the armor. If it is not so chronic, then maybe the person is not experiencing brain fatigue, brain fogging, etc. May experience other symptoms. Whenever you see the signs and symptoms, this is the list of things you may observe. It is not necessary that all of these things will be seen. These 4 may be seen, the other 4 may be seen, 6 may be seen. So it is a group of signs and symptoms which will give you an indication that the presence of armor or presence of toxins is there in the body.
That's interesting that you don't have to have armor to be sick.
Yes, you don't have to have armor to be sick. And you will understand this better as we go along these days, because I'll explain you how a disease happens, when the disease happens, etc. You will understand that. Okay. So coming back to the signs and symptoms. So the cells are not getting nourished, the body is not getting nourished. So obviously, the strength of the body has reduced, the sense organs are not functioning effectively, the brain is not functioning effectively. All these will be seen. Apart from this, you will observe certain signs and symptoms because of the stickiness of the armor. Your stools will become sticky. The stools, they will become sticky. So probably you will need more water, more tissue to clean. You will need more water to clean the pot as well. So the stickiness of the stools will be seen easily noticeable. Foul smelling, so the stools will have strong odor, strong smell. Because of the heaviness, the stools will sink in water.
So it will find its way back out.
Sorry?
It does find its way out. Once
Yes.
the armor's in the body, it still
It
somehow processes back out.
Processes shows the effects. Okay, but the problem is that this is constantly happening. These are the signs and symptoms. Okay, so the bad smell, all these signs and symptoms will be seen. Okay, but the problems with armor start when it starts causing obstruction in the body because of the stickiness. What it does when it is flowing through the channels, because what did we say? This nutrient fluid is absorbed into the circulation. It starts circulating throughout the body, reaching each and every cell in the body. So whilst it is circulating, this armor starts causing blockages, obstructions in the channels into the circulation. That is when the problems start. Or it will go and cause obstruction in some tissue, some organ, some system differently. We will talk about that later. So when it starts obstructing, when it starts accumulating, that is when the problems will start in the body. That is when it will result into some serious problem or a disease in the body. So otherwise the armor is being formed, the body is trying to throw it out. It is very difficult to throw out armor through the digestive system. It is only small quantity that is being thrown out. The rest is still circulating throughout the body. So that is what is showing all these signs and symptoms like stickiness, heaviness, lethargic feeling, tiredness, the bowels being sticky, bowels being foul smelling, etc. Apart from that, you will also notice typical sign that which is coating on the tongue. coating on the tongue.
Oh yeah.
When there is
Yeah.
this toxicity, coating on the tongue will be observed. Tongue is said to be the mirror of your digestion. Okay, it is important that you observe two things every day. One is your tongue and one is your feces. A lot of times when we ask people say, oh, no, I don't turn back and have a look. It was inside your body. So what's the problem? So, and this is basically because, again, the idea is that we have to start understanding our body, how it is functioning, etc. And these two things, one is, the feces and the tongue, these are clear indications how your digestion is functioning. If the stool is sticky, if the stool is sinking, that means you have ama in the body. If there are half digested, a lot of people have half digested food in their feces. Like they have green vegetables or pieces of carrot or some grain, some seeds thrown out. What does that mean? That the digestive system is not functioning properly. That's why the food is being thrown out. So when the digestion is happening, and like if we go back to the digestive system and the digestion as such, when the digestion is happening, every part of the digestion, the food has to remain in that part for a particular time for the process to be completed. Correct? If the food is in the mouth, we say you have to chew it properly, break it down, get it mixed with saliva. And that is why it said, you don't gulp the food down. Why? Because then the food is not enough, is not present in the mouth for sufficient amount of time to be broken down, to be processed with saliva, for the taste to be perceived, and then moved to the stomach. When it is in the stomach, it has to be in the stomach for a particular time for the food to be broken down, mixed with mucus, the proteins to be digested, then moved to the small intestine. It has to be present there for a particular time for the digestion to be complete so that the nutrient fluid and the waste products are formed. Now, if the food is not being held into the small intestine for sufficient amount of time, that is when the food is not going to get digested. And that is when you are going to find half digested or small pieces of food in your waste product, in your feces, like pieces of carrots or pieces of spinach or seeds, etc. Why? Because the food is not held into the small intestine for sufficient amount of time for the digestion to happen. It's propelled into the next process, next part faster. So everywhere the duration is extremely important. So if after the digestion, for example, the food has come into the next part of small intestine, it has to be held there for sufficient amount of time for the nutrient fluid to be reabsorbed. If it is not retained there, then what do we call that condition? Malabsorption.
Oh yeah.
Yeah? Why? Where the food is being, the nutrient fluid is thrown out with the food. The food is not nourishing the body. Even though you are eating healthy food, the body is not getting nourishment. Why? Because it's not being held there for the body to reabsorb. If the food is reabsorbed and the next part goes into the large intestine, there also it needs to be held for a particular amount of time for the water, vitamins, minerals to be lost, to be reabsorbed. If that doesn't happen, what do we call? We call it diarrhea.
Oh.
Where the water is lost, vitamins are lost, minerals are lost. So every part of the digestive system, you will understand that time plays a very important role.
Is the diarrhea starting in the small intestine? That's why it's going through too fast?
No, it will start with the Agni being weak, and then that will result into the next processes being faster. So in digestion, then the absorption not being proper, then the reabsorption not being proper, and then
And can the opposite happen if your fire is too high? That it's burning it and not getting absorption?
Yes. Yes. If the fire is too strong, it will burn everything, and then there will be not enough sufficient fecal matter also to be will be formed, and that will result into waste products not being thrown out. So it will be held in the body for longer time because of the dryness. So, and this is exactly the role of fats. Lubrication, movement, propulsion, all that is because of the fats. What is saliva? Saliva is fat. That helps the food to move from the mouth to from the esophagus to the stomach. What happens in the stomach? Food is mixed with mucus. That helps, that lubricates the food, moves the food forward into the small intestine. So everywhere you will see that it's the right amount of.
Is that what the ghee is doing?
That's what the ghee, and that's the reason we are giving the ghee tonight. Because when we put you onto a particular diet, which is going to be a diet which is like a fasting diet, what is going to happen with the fasting? The dryness in the body is going to increase. When the dryness in the body increases, we don't want the dryness to increase. That's why that small amount of ghee is going to be given to keep it lubricated.
Well, I certainly don't want to miss out on my ghee tonight.
Well done.
So, coming back to this, basically that when the ama is in the body, you will see all these signs and symptoms, or certain signs and symptoms depending on the severity of the condition. Heaviness in the body, feeling lethargic, not having the energy, not having the strength, brain function being affected, sense organs getting tired or fatigued easily. So what will you observe? You're reading and your eyes get tired. Okay, sensitivity to sound. That is also tiredness of the sense organ. Correct? Why are you getting irritated with loud noises or sounds? Why? Because the sense organ functioning is affected. You are not getting nourished. The sense organ is not getting nourished. What happens when you don't get food? If I keep you here till 3 o'clock, not letting you eat, and keep on giving you this lecture, you will get irritated with me. Why? Because the fire is there and you are not getting nourishment. The same thing will happen if the sense organs are not getting nourished. If the nourishment is not there, they're going to get tired and get irritated. So these symptoms will be seen: coating on the tongue, the stools becoming sticky, foul smelling, heavy. These symptoms will be seen. People with ama, they will exhibit very typical symptom where they find it very difficult to get out of the bed in the morning. These people, because of the heaviness in the body, they find it very difficult to get out of the bed in the morning. Why? Because the food has not been digested. They are feeling heavy, they are feeling lethargic. They really have to make an effort to get out of the bed. As they start moving, as they start their activity, they start feeling better. Why? Because the movement is generating heat. That heat is helping in the digestion of the food, and the body is feeling lighter gradually. The moment they eat food, again they feel lethargic. They feel heavy. They feel sleepy. They want to rest. So this is because the food is causing problems. It's a vicious cycle. The food is not getting digested, you eat more food, it adds to the problem and continues to add on to the problem. So this condition of ama you will see in a lot of people.
Yeah.
And with the kind of lifestyle we have, with the kind of dietary habits we have, with the kind of eating, drinking habits we have, we are more prone to having ama in the system. So every day morning you should observe your tongue, whether the tongue is coated or not. That is the first indicator of ama in the body. If there is coating on the tongue, do not eat breakfast.
But that's me every morning. I would coat it on my tongue.
So then if there's coating on the tongue, then you need to get rid of it, because that's an indicator. Like I said, your tongue is the mirror of your digestion. If the tongue is clean, that means your digestion is proper. If the tongue is not clean, that means your digestion is not proper.
Can I just reduce drinking excess water?
You
One
can-
of these ones?
No, we will come to how to deal with ama. So you will get a concrete solution to that, obviously. And that's why you are here for as well.
Thank
So,
you.
It could be also from having dairy. Like I notice if you're drinking, milk or things, that you'll have the coating more.
Yeah, you will have a coating, but this is when you wake up in the morning, the first thing, when you go to brush and you see your tongue is coated.
Yeah.
That's from
Okay.
the earlier food.
Okay.
Obviously, when you drink tea, when you drink coffee, when you drink milk, there will be a coating, but that is afterwards. This is like the first thing in the morning when you observe the tongue, there is coating. That is an indicator that there is ama in the body.
Okay. So you might have bad coating at night because of all the things you've eaten during the day. But if it's not so bad in the morning, then you notice bad.
You might not.
You are better, I would say, if there is a coating, because say if you have eaten, say, turmeric, okay, in your meal, there is going to be a yellow coating on the tongue. Obviously, if you have taken dairy, there is going to be a coating on the tongue, because the food is undergoing the process of digestion.
Yeah.
But once the food is digested, then there should not be coating on the tongue. In spite of you waking up and you giving 8 hours of time for the food to digest, you wake up in the morning still with the coating, that means there is certainly something wrong.
Yeah.
So observe this. If there is coating on the tongue, that is the first indicator of the ama in the body. Okay. Now, a lot of times people may not observe coating on the tongue. Also, okay, people may not observe coating on the tongue, but they may experience other symptoms like the stools being heavy, stools being sticky. So you will have to understand out of the entire list, if you are observing some or the other symptoms that is indicating the presence of ama, then you will have to still incorporate the various solutions that we are going to talk about now. So the concept of toxicity in Ayurveda revolves around this idea of digestive system being weak, the ama being formed in the body, and that causing various problems in the body. Okay, that is where the whole thing revolves. Now, like we said earlier, that the ama is responsible for various diseases in the body. Ama is responsible for various problems in the body, but it may not be like 100% it is always ama present whenever there is a disease formation. Okay, you will have to ascertain every time there is a health problem whether ama is present or not present, and accordingly deal with the situation. But coming back to this, the problem of ama, the basic reason why ama is formed in the body is primarily weak digestive system. So the first thing that you have to do is strengthen the digestive system. And how do you strengthen the digestive system? By giving rest to the digestive system, not giving it extra work to do when it is already overloaded. Now please understand, the Western concept also, what we talked about earlier, has never ever said or talked about taking the toxin and removing out of the body. Never ever. They also deal with it in a way where you improve the system functioning first, which is you improve the liver functioning, and then the liver will process it and then remove it through the body. That is what the Western concept we talked about, that even the toxins which are present, which are not wrapped in fats, once the liver functioning improves, it will do better detoxification of the toxins of the body, and the other toxins, liver will process it and remove it out of the body. In Ayurveda also, the concept of picking the toxins and removing out of the body does not exist. It is a toxin which is created inside the body, so it has to be dealt inside the body only. It has to be digested inside the body only. Some part may be thrown out of the feces with the feces, but majority of that needs to be digested and processed inside the system. Is that clear? So now when we look at the solutions, the first thing is, because the root cause of that is weak digestive system, the solution for that is strengthen the digestive system. Now to strengthen the digestive system, the first thing to do is rest. Rest to the digestive system, which means fasting. So strengthening the digestive system, giving rest to the digestive system, the first solution to that is fasting. Now fasting is of various types. Okay, there can be total fast, where you don't eat any food at all. Okay, you don't eat any food, or just drink water and stay. So that is basically total fasting, where you don't eat food at all. Then there can be partial fasting. Partial fasting is changing the quality of the food. So say for example, you only have very liquidy, watery soups, broths. That can be also another way of fasting, partial fasting. Cutting one meal out. So suppose you're eating 3 times a day, you only eat 1 meal, fast for 2 meals. That is also fasting, partial fasting. Having juices, having decoctions, having infusions, that's also fasting. So various ways can be used depending on what is suitable for that person. If the person's constitution, when we talk of constitutions, I will explain fasting particularly because it's related to the constitutions and body type of the person. Okay, but different types of fastings have to be incorporated in different types of people. One rule cannot be applied to everyone, because every person's body and constitution, their physiologies are different. So you will have to use different strengths of fasting, different durations of fasting also. So you may have to go from 3 days to 5 days to 7 days of fasting, depending on the body type of the person and how it shows results on the person. But fasting will be the important aspect of digesting the ama or getting rid of the toxin. Then second thing is use of spices. So using spices to stimulate the digestive enzymes, to stimulate the digestive agni, that will be the second thing to do. Spices are directly of fire elements, so that will stimulate the fire in the body, that will stimulate the pitta in the body, improve the digestive agni, improve the digestive fire, and help in digesting the toxins in the body. So spices like say turmeric, black pepper, cumin. So all the different spices that are present, used in cooking, all of those can be used depending on how strong you want the spices to be, and that can be used. Ginger, garlic, all these can be used for basically helping the digestive system, strengthening the digestive system. The spices can also be used in form of infusions. Yeah, they can also be used in form of infusions to stimulate the agni, to stimulate the digestive fire. People who have ama in the system should only drink warm water. So coming back to the question that you had, okay, whether you should be drinking water. If you are drinking water, it should only be warm water. Warm water is of a temperature higher than the body temperature. I'm not saying room temperature because room temperature will vary. It's like 17 degrees or 20 degrees now. So it is still lesser than the body temperature. So warm means more than body temperature. So 40 to 45 degrees is what your minimum is expected. So warm water throughout the day. Warm water has an ability to digest the toxins without causing any disturbances with the digestion. If people have a habit of drinking water, excessive water, and they cannot stop it, to reduce the impact of drinking water on the Agni, they should shift to drinking warm water. That will reduce the impact of water drinking on Agni, reduce the negative impact. So warm water, first of all, warm water is not very tasty. So you will not drink so much compared to the normal water. So the quantity will reduce automatically. And secondly, it has an inherent property of stimulating the digestive Agni. So it will stimulate the Agni, it will stimulate the fire, and it will help the digestive system in improving its capacity. So warm water. Then certain treatments are useful, particularly sauna. Sauna is supposed to be used in cases of ama. Steam is not to be used, sauna is to be used. Ayurveda is the only science which talks about when to use steam, when to use sauna. Sauna is dry heat, steam is moist heat. So moist heat is not to be used, dry heat is to be used because of the presence of toxicity in the body. Anything that is moist, unctuous will further increase the toxicity in the body, and that is why the heat also, the fermentation also, the sweating also has to be induced by use of dry heat. So sauna or wheat bags, sand bags, those can be used for fermentation purposes. Then the next thing which has been advised is exercise. Exercise will help in digesting the toxins. And medicinal wines.
Medicinal
Wines.
wines.
Yeah.
Didn't know there was such a thing.
You will get it during these 9 days. In the night, one day.
So we're only talking about the Ayurvedic ones, not the digestives that you can.
No, I mean, see, the idea is the alcohol is basically heating in nature. Okay, alcohol is also drying in nature. So, use of alcohol is suggested for stimulating the appetite. The quantity is critical. The quantity is only about 40 to 50 milliliters. Okay, that is important. So one cannot have a bottle of wine and drink it and say I am digesting the ama. It's going to increase the ama in the body. So even if suppose you don't have these and you want to use say a wine, a red wine, not white wine, red wine, then 40 to 60 mils is the maximum you can have for digesting it. That also has to be diluted with water and then consumed. So it's no fun. It's as a medicine, so only 40 mils mixed with room temperature water and then consumed after the meals.
So a lot of European people will drink red wine with their meal and they say it's for the digestion and so on.
Yeah, but the quantities are important. Na? So like I said, say nothing in the world is only beneficial or only harmful. It is the quantity that makes it helpful, beneficial or non-beneficial. It is who is using it makes it beneficial, not beneficial.
Yeah.
when is the person having it makes it beneficial, non-beneficial. And I think what Shanti was talking about, intelligence is something that we have, which we should use correctly to use the substance in the correct manner, correct quantity, correct time to get the benefits of it. If we don't use the intelligence, then we'll use it in the wrong quantity, wrong time, making it harmful to the body, which we do it with the food and everything. So alcohol is not problematic. Ayurveda has, ways of preparing medicinal wines. Ayurveda has suggested use of alcohol for treatments, but the quantity becomes important. When you have it is important. To whom you can give it is important. Like it is clearly said that, cannot be given to small kids and babies, cannot be given to pregnant women, cannot be given to, certain people who have high pitta, etc. So you have to understand where to give. But in particularly this condition where there is toxicity in the body, use of alcohol for digesting the ama, because it stimulates the appetite, has been suggested. Okay, so sauna, use of alcohol, medicated wines in smaller quantities of 40 ml with water, and then exercise. So these are the various ways, if incorporated correctly, help in digesting the ama.
So one question.
Yes.
So the sauna, the dry heat, is to stimulate the agni, the appetite, or is to for sweat?
It's for fermentation, it's for sweating, and the idea is to basically increase the heat in the body. And when the heat is increased, the agni is also stimulated, so increasing the fire. But we don't want the moistness along with it, the unctuousness which comes with water, and that is why steam is not advised. Even in cases of treatment of diseases, they have said that if suppose you have a joint problem which is with ama, you should use sandbag or a wheat bag. You should not use steam. Steam will aggravate the problem, the pain will increase, the swelling will increase, whereas if you use dry heat, the swelling and the pain will reduce with the ama.
What would be suitable for steam? What kind of condition would be suitable? Obviously dryness, but is there a condition that would be better?
For the steam?
Yeah.
So basically the purpose of using steam is mainly, can I keep this question to answer later, because I will have to give a little bit of background so everybody understands, because if I tell you, you will understand because you have studied Ayurveda, the students will understand.
Yeah.
But for everyone to understand, let me get to some basic concepts first and then I'll explain. But please remind me to talk about this because it's important in terms of how steam is effective in correcting certain problems when used correctly in the right situation. So I'll explain that, but just remind me of that if I forget to. Yeah. So and that's why I said that Ayurveda is the only science which talks about when to use steam and when to use sauna. Sauna has only been suggested, or when I say sauna, dry heat. They say dry heat is to be used. They have not used the word sauna. They have said dry heat, any form of dry heat. So that's why a sandbag or a wheat bag or sauna, anything can be used. So dry heat is to be only used when there is ama presence. And in general, if I have to say when steam is to be used, when there is vata aggravation. When there is excess vata aggravation, that is when steam is to be used, but we'll come to that in details at a later stage. So when we talk about this ama condition and when we talk about correcting the ama, like we said that a lot of people, you will find they have ama in the body. Okay, a lot of people, when you examine people, when you study people, and you study yourself, you study your family members, you study your friends, you will see that ama is present in a lot of people. And that is why, these methods which we explain become very important. And I can tell you that if people have ama and you have observed, say there is ama in the body, you just don't take, say, a breakfast and a lunch, your tongue will get cleaned. So if you do it on a regular basis and pay attention to the changes happening in the body, do not let the buildup of ama happen in the body, then it is good. Now, why is it good? Because if the nourishment of the body is happening properly, then your cells are getting nourished properly, your tissues are getting nourished properly, the wear and tear of the body, the repair of the body is happening properly, the regeneration of the tissues is happening properly, then you are preventing a lot of other problems or future problems from happening. We will also talk about this when we talk about diseases, etc. What is the role of tissues, etc. And that is when you will understand that when ama is formed, it breaks the cycle of your tissue formation. It breaks the cycle of your tissue formation, and that can result into a lot of health problems in future. And that is why to break that from happening, or to prevent that from happening, the nourishment has to be appropriate. And the nourishment will only be appropriate if your digestion is functioning perfectly. And that is the reason why it is said that more than 99% of the diseases, they arise in your stomach, or they arise in your digestive system. Now, when we look at these conditions of ama, when we look at these conditions of toxicity, we talked about a condition where the blood vessels are blocked. Okay, we talked about this condition. We talked about LDL. We talked about HDL. So LDL in normal circumstances is always formed in the body, right? LDL is formed, HDL is formed. It is required to be formed in the body. What did we say? When the walls are damaged, that is when the LDL will start functioning to repair the walls and stick to the walls for the repair function, causing the build-up of that, resulting into the wall thickness increasing, resulting into blockages gradually. That is what happens. Now, when basically we look at it from an Ayurvedic perspective, it is similar to the ama. The normal functioning is the nutrient fluid is formed. The nutrient fluid is going to every cell in the body, nourishing the body. Correct? Isn't there lipids in that? Obviously there are fats in that. Are they causing problems? No. Why? Because the digestion has happened properly. The food has completely been transformed into the form which the body can utilize, assimilate and use for its nourishment. Correct? This whole problem starts when? It starts when the form is changed. When is it changed? When the digestion is not proper, that's when the nutrient fluid is not proper, and that's what we call as ama. This is what circulates throughout the body, and that is what causes blockages. So the normal nutrient fluid, which was supposed to be healthy, lubricating, nourishing, now starts acting exactly opposite. Doesn't give nourishment, doesn't lubricate, instead it sticks, causes blockages. So if you compare it with LDL, HDL, the cholesterol, and compare it to ama, HDL and LDL, which is the cholesterol, is like a normal functioning fat or lipid. Whereas ama is an abnormally functioning fat or a lipid. Why this has happened? The cause is your digestive functioning. So once your digestion gets impaired, the entity in the body which was supposed to be helping the body now starts acting in a negative way, harming the body. And it will result into obstruction of the channels, it will result into blockages, which is then resulting into the conditions that we are dealing with today. The atherosclerosis, the blockages, the blood not reaching the heart itself, and then resulting into cardiac arrest or ischemic heart disease and so on and so forth. So when we study these conditions, we have to understand that the basic problem started where And obviously it is a metabolic disease. Even the Western science says heart conditions are basically arising from the food that you consume. So if they are arising from the food, then obviously, we are responsible for creating this situation through impaired digestive processes. If we keep the digestion strong, if we keep the digestion healthy, then we are never ever going to reach this condition of having the lipids causing problems in the body. So the point that I'm trying to make here is, instead of being afraid of lipids, we should be more careful about or more focused on how the system is functioning. However, like I have seen people who have come to me and they have said, I buy organic food, I buy pesticide free food, still why I am sick? Yes, obviously because the processor, the system is not functioning properly. So if the system is not functioning properly, even though you are eating the most healthy food according to the attributes of the food, it is still as good as throwing in a dustbin, because your system is just like a dustbin. It's not functioning at all. It's converting it into a very bad substance eventually. If you have a raw material and you want to make a product, the machine has to be appropriate. If the machine has a fault, the product is also going to have some problems. If the raw material is bad, the machine is good, then also the end product is going to be bad. But if the raw material is good, the machine is bad, still your end product is going to be bad. So your machine has to be functioning properly, effectively, which is extremely important, which in today's world we are forgetting. Even if you go on Instagram or any social media, you will keep on seeing people talking about substances. Eat this is healthy, this is fantastic, this is superfood, this is magic food, this takes care of your weight loss, this takes care of diabetes, this is great for your heart. All that is fine, but it will only act in your body if it undergoes digestion. If it is not digested, it is equally bad. So if the discussion on the system health or your physiology has to be there, has to be more on these mediums where we talk about how to improve the digestive system, how to improve your functioning of these systems, how to improve your physiologies. Then all these substances which are great, which are there in nature, will be effective in your bodies as well. The other day I was watching, and there was a lady who was talking about cayenne pepper, and talking about how it is great for detox, great for liver health, and so on and so forth. So I said, obviously it is great for it, but the end of the day, it has to be digested. If it's not digested, then what's the point of talking about it? So anyway, coming back to this, the attention has to be, and the reason we arrange these lectures, or we talk about these things in the lectures, is because making you aware of how our bodies function. The idea is, when you go back, okay, you should remember to observe your tongue every day. You should remember that, okay, if my tongue is coated, I have ama in the system. You should remember what to do in your day-to-day life. It is not just 10 days here you feel great and you go back and then end of the story. No, it will only be remembered and thought about being useful if you get something to go back and use in your day-to-day life. Then only it makes sense. So the lectures here are primarily meant for taking some solutions which you can go back and incorporate into your lives, of your life and your family life, so that you become healthy in a better way. Not just using external supplementations and medicines. That's the easiest way out. So focus on these things what we are discussing, because that will help you in understanding your bodies better, understanding your physiologies better, dealing with them in a better way. There will always be quick fixes, there will always be band-aids, okay, but always look at the root cause. The root cause, if you deal with the root cause, you have taken care of the problem right from its origin, which is a permanent solution. And that is why, like a problem like say a heart disease, we talk about it, it becomes a big problem, but it starts with a small sign of coating on the tongue. But we neglected, we ignored, and then it aggravated, it increased, it became chronic. We pay attention to it when our cholesterol levels are high, when we have become obese, when we have put on weight, or when we have been told that, oh, you need to take care of your heart now because you may have to undergo an angiography and put a stent in it. That's when we start thinking about it seriously. But the point is, you could have thought about it when you observed the coating on the tongue. That was the easiest solution. You had it in your hand to deal with it with one breakfast.
You promise? I only have to skip one breakfast? No.
So basically, we don't pay attention to this, and we create serious problems in our bodies. That's what is that's what I'm trying to explain. Chronic fatigue. What does the science say? A condition of fatigue which is beyond a certain duration, I think they talk about some 6 months or something, which is unexplainable, is called as chronic fatigue. What are the signs and symptoms? Exactly like ama. People are tired, they are fatigued, they don't have any energy to do anything, their digestion is impaired, they don't feel any appetite. I missed out on adding a few things. In the toxicity signs and symptoms, also add that apart from the coating on the tongue, these people also experience loss of appetite. Okay, loss of appetite. They experience improper perception of the taste or lack of taste, excessive salivation. The signs and symptoms of ama, wherever you have written, just add these things: loss of appetite, lack of taste or or improper perception of the taste, excess salivation. Also, people who have chronic ama, they may experience pain in the body. Now, this pain in the body will be shifting pain. So today you have pain in the back, the next day it will be in the ankle, the other day it will be in the knee, the other day it will be in the shoulder. So it's a shifting pain. So when we look at a condition like chronic fatigue also, when you observe these people, you will find toxicity in them, ama in them, and you basically deal with the ama, their condition will improve. Fibromyalgia, another condition, where people have muscular pain, connective tissue pain. If you observe the signs and symptoms, you will observe all the signs and symptoms of ama in them. I mean, these are like crystal clear conditions directly arising because of ama, which can be dealt only by digesting the ama and correcting the agni straight away. There is a particular condition that is observed here called as Ross River fever. Yeah, in Australia.
What is it?
Ross River fever.
Yeah. Mosquito.
River
It's a mosquito bite. It comes from a mosquito bite and it gives joint pain which remains with people for years.
Yep. Yep.
People have very low intensity fever and joint pains, and that keeps on happening to them over a period of time.
Yep.
There is a similar condition in India which has recently come up in the last 2 years or 3 years, which is called as chikungunya, the same one. It's exactly the same. The joint problems and everything, named differently, is the same. Here, because probably somebody went on camping there near the river, got bitten and started, so probably that's how the name has come. So, but if we look at those conditions also, where the chronicity of the problem is there, coming from a mosquito bite which started with fever, had joint pain, and then the problem keeps on recurring, relapsing over a period of time. There also you will see that these people, they have presence of armor which is continuing with them to have this problem. If you deal with these people and you correct their armor, their recurrence of the problem will be stopped. You will see that when the armor buildup happens in their bodies, their problems will come back. So when I am saying this, what I am trying to tell you here is also that there is a connection between your immune system and the presence of toxicity in your body. The more the toxicity in the body, the more the armor in the body, the lower your immune system is, the weaker your immune system is.
Yep.
Now when we make that kind of a statement, then that's like opening a massive box of Pandora kind of a thing, where you're opening up huge issues now. Because the moment you talk about immunity being related to toxicity or armor presence, then you're talking of a lot of immune related diseases. You're talking about, your immunity, you're talking about your allergies, you're talking about, viral infections, you're talking about conditions like COVID, which came up, few years ago and which still is going on. It's just that the governments are not serious about it. That's why, they're not talking about it. But everywhere there is this happening, like people who, and honestly, we studied the COVID virus in our 4th standard science books. Let's not forget it. Like at least we had it, the H1N1 virus, we studied in our 4th standard science book.
Mm-hmm.
It's just a mutated version of it which became serious, which became, which we had to deal with differently. Even today, I'm sure there are mutated versions which are going around.
Of course, yeah. That's what viruses, that's their job description.
Yeah.
It is, it's their job description to stay one step ahead.
Yeah. So there has been, sorry.
No, there is a higher incidence, isn't there, of autoimmune diseases
Yeah.
now
Yeah.
than there used to be.
Yes. There is a high incidence of autoimmune disease. There is a high incidence of cardiac problems.
So they could all
Cardiac
be
arrest.
attributed to that weakened digestive system.
Weakened digestive system, lower immunity. So some few things have changed drastically, where the issues earlier were primarily because of like the blockages were mainly happening because of lipids earlier, or lipids mainly. But now, at least the doctors that I have spoken to and the cardiac specialists that I have spoken to, who happen to be my friends, they are finding a lot of proteins forming blockages now. So, like one of my friends, he works as a HOD in one of the big hospitals in Pune, and I was speaking to him and I asked him that why are people who are working out every day, having good amount of protein, young people in the age group of 40s having heart attacks. So he said that what we are observing is that the clots are now not just lipid clots, they are also protein clots. So now we don't know what we are heading to.
Is that because of the protein powder, something?
It's not to do with protein powder or anything. It's just basically, what people are taking. The protein is also now causing clots, which earlier was not heard of.
So they're taking protein in different forms, or?
Yeah, they are taking protein, that's all. What is causing it, what has changed after COVID, whether it's the vaccination, whether it was the treatment, whether it's, something
this is
else,
post-COVID.
or is just the effect of something that has been released during the infections. And this is happening with people who have had COVID
Okay.
and they have had some treatment and they are experiencing these problems now more than before. So something has changed, which is still, being researched as to what has changed. That people of this age group are now suffering from cardiac arrest. People who are not really having a lot of fats and carbs in their diet are still suffering from cardiac arrest. So if we go back to the theory, you go back to various diet concepts, everything has been linked to carbs and fats. The cardiac arrests have been linked to carbs and fats. But now people are not taking carbohydrates, people are not taking sugars, people who are not taking fats also, they are also landing into cardiac arrest. So something else is happening. And when I was talking to my friends, they said that, the protein is also now causing clots. So that is something very interesting. Now, how is protein causing clots? Why is it causing blockages? That needs to be studied further. So, yeah, that is something which is happening. Something new.
Yeah.
But yes, the prevalence of these diseases has certainly increased now. The immune systems have certainly gone down massively. And these things are going to keep on happening.
If you're not having all those things and you're having the proteins and you're not digesting properly, so you've got the half digested fluid, then that's going to cause the clots.
No, what I'm saying is this concept, see, obviously we are talking when I started talking, talking about the modern concept. Like I was talking to a cardiac specialist, who doesn't understand the concept of AMA or anything. And he also said that this is what is happening. So certainly, you will have to go back to understanding of the digestive system, whether it is protein, carb or fat. If it is not digested properly, whatever it is, doesn't matter, it's going to cause blockages.
Yeah.
You'll have to go back to that understanding. But it is too early to say that until they have proven it that now, okay, proteins are causing clot because of, 1, 2, 3 reasons. Then you can go back, relate and say that. But the basic understanding in Ayurveda is not related to what you're eating. Like when we spoke about the concept of AMA, we never spoke about eating carbs, eating fats, eating this. We said if you eat excessively, even if it is protein, fat, carbs, whatever you are eating, if you are eating excessively, if you are eating heavy foods. Now heavy foods are obviously, foods which are heavier to digest, which we spoke about are fats, proteins mainly. Carbohydrates are relatively easier to digest. So if you consume that in excess, that also is harmful. Anything which is against your digestive capacity, if you consume excessively in larger quantities, in larger quality in terms of heaviness, it is going to be damaging to the body. And it is eventually going to result into some or the other diseases which is now happening, which is being shown now. So we are moving away from the basic understanding we have had for so many years that lipids are dangerous, carbohydrates are dangerous. Now anything that is heavy, consumed excessively, is going to be proven as dangerous eventually.
But this idea that lipids and carbs were the problem had beguiled people into believing protein's okay. And the younger generation are having protein powder, whatever, and then going and doing sport and active lives to compensate for sitting and all the rest.
Yeah.
And I think that's part of the same scenario.
So the understanding is, see, a lot of things come from the aesthetic part of it. How you look. That is becoming very important in the society today. So the whole idea of taking protein, the role of the protein is when protein gets digested, it gets converted into amino acid. Amino acids, when combines in different chains, it forms various connective tissue. That's where the function of protein ends. So basically, the muscle, which is a connective tissue, your ligaments, tendons, which are your connective tissue, your bones, so all your skin, all that is going to be formed from protein. So wear and tear of that which is happening, the repair process that is happening is going to happen from protein. So that is clear. But for that you need only a certain amount of protein, which also has been specified in the Western science, how much protein to consume. Now, when you are doing physical activities, obviously the wear and tear is more, so you consume more protein. But that's where the whole understanding finishes. Today what is happening is people are doing excessively because people are getting into an idea that I want to build muscle, I want to lose fat. Now for losing fat, what I want to do, obviously I'm going to cut down the fats, I'm going to cut down the carbs, and I'm only going to build protein. I'm going to only eat protein because why? The more protein I eat, the more muscle I build, the more energy I need to function. The more energy I need to function, the more fat I burn. So it's a vicious cycle people are getting into. But the understanding, like I have seen people, who consume a lot of food. People particularly, I have seen the bodybuilders very closely. And when I look at them and when I look at their competition prepping, etc., the consumption of calories that they have during the competition phases goes to 8,000, 10,000 calories a day.
Wow.
And the amount of carbohydrates, the amount of protein they eat, and the way they look in those phases is very unhealthy. They look bloated, they look heavy, they look lethargic, they sleep throughout the day. The only time they get up is to exercise. The rest of the time they are mostly sleeping. They smell bad, and this is I have seen it happening. So obviously what is going wrong is going beyond a certain extent of consuming foods and believing that if I eat 200 grams of protein, I am going to convert it into muscle, without the understanding that that 200 grams of protein needs to get digested to get converted into my muscle. That understanding is zero. Absolutely zero.
Yeah, you're absolutely right.
They just say, okay, you want to build 5 kilo of muscle,
Yeah.
that means you need to eat this much protein. You need to do that in 2 months. So it's a simple mathematics, but the body doesn't work on mathematics. There is something that is more than mathematics, which is the process of conversion.
The assumption is though that if you put it into your body, it will get digested.
That's
Yes,
exactly
that's the
right.
assumption.
My son's like that. I think he thinks that he strips open one of those paper sachets and gulps down a drink that... I mean, he goes to the gym and he works out, but I don't think that he would not be thinking about the process of digestion for one moment.
No, but that doesn't exist.
No.
Like, like Denise said, yes, whatever goes inside, whatever you put inside has to get converted into muscle. It has to get converted, but that's the wrong concept. And the basic idea here is the more you eat, the more you are damaging your system, the more armor you are creating. It is not going to be helpful. And then you keep on drinking, enzymes for digestive enzymes, you keep on drinking papain, you keep on adding those things to help your digestion. But the basic understanding of quantity and quality of the food is not there. And they have so many health problems. You look at the number of bodybuilders who have died post-COVID. The number of bodybuilders, and I'm talking of bodybuilders who competed at the Olympia stage level, they have died of heart attacks post-COVID because of the wrong diets, because of the issues that have happened after COVID. And this is more important now because certainly something has changed which is creating these problems more, and the proteins, like my friend said, the proteins are now causing problems. So that was always the case. It's just coming to surface now, probably. a lot more people, and people always, people are dying on treadmills while running. People are running, people are dying whilst exercising.
People are dying in their sleep.
Yeah.
Some people without any reason.
Yeah.
Or rhyme for it.
Yes.
Yeah.
So the understanding, the physiology understanding is lacking, which is extremely critical. People are constantly focusing on external things to get better, which is extremely dangerous, because these things, if they are not digested, they are not going to be useful at all. Anyway, what's the time? Oh, okay, past 1 o'clock.
I've got
Okay.
a real problem. I don't
We'll-
feel hungry and it's lunchtime. Maybe the smell.
Okay, so we'll stop for the day.
Thank you very much.